Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Well, looks like Kirsten Gillibrand has joined a fast-growing list of Democrats who have decided to drop out of the Democratic race for president for 2020. Now, this crowded field has narrowed down to just a few people left, only about 12, I think. We're going to have to keep an eye out and see how many more people remain in the Democratic presidential race. I know that there is a town hall that's coming up soon. It's apparently going to be 7 hours long or something like that. Should be on CNN regarding climate change. But Kirsten Gillibrand, of course, she was the one who was deeply involved because of her family with the affair with Keith Rainier, the group, the CULT. Lots of people like to say that would be NXIVM. So Kirsten Gillibrand is going to go back to serving her constituents and fighting President Trump from Washington, D.C. But Kirsten Gillibrand, I wish you all the best. Very, very glad that you've decided to drop out of the race, because a final countdown between you and President Trump would not be nearly as good as one between Elizabeth Warren and President Trump, or Bernie Sanders and President Trump, and I would imagine probably Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is probably going to be next, or maybe Cory Booker, because they're all polling with like 2%, not doing so well. But moving on to the next story. All right, now from my friend Methods, this was, I believe, on Discord. We were talking about this yesterday, but he says, funny how our favorite Anon is randomly mentioned in this political polling data. This is a poll from Emerson, and it says, regarding QAnon, a far-right conspiracy theory detailing a supposed secret plot by an alleged deep state against U.S. President Donald Trump and his supporters. Pretty interesting that they decided to ask people about QAnon or even talk about it. Very, very strange. Possibly they're looking to see just how deep this has gone into the public consciousness, how many people are actually buying into this. Well, we're going to be getting into more stories right after a brief word from my sponsor. Every day, we see warning signs that this country is inching closer and closer to, dare I say it, civil war. Violent protests by radical leftists, armed attacks on ICE facilities, police officers heckled and pelted while executing arrests, even elected members of Congress crashing political events, and the media justifies or ignores it. Unless we change course, the result is inevitable. And though civil war is far from guaranteed, we are in a cycle of violent weather that is unmistakable. Earthquakes, hurricanes, and more. Almost every American is at risk in some form. And that's why I prepare with My Patriot Supply. They've revolutionized preparedness with an industry-leading line of food storage, water filtration, and other products that you will need at some point. And right now, you can save 50% on a 2-week emergency food kit. These 2-week food kits include breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, and they last up to 25 years in storage. Don't ignore the writing on the wall. Give yourself peace of mind and save 50% off at my special website, preparewithredpill78.com. That's preparewithredpill78.com. All right, and the first story, also a tweet from Method, says, panic. This is regarding Prince Andrew. His legal team is speaking out about the relationship he had with not only Jeffrey, but also Virginia Giuffre. I believe it's Virginia Roberts now. This famous picture right here has made the rounds for many years, and Andrew is speaking about it. It's saying that, I believe he's saying that he does not ever remember this picture being taken. Let's go ahead and take a look at the story. Prince Andrew's legal team reportedly thinks the picture of him and Jeffrey's accuser, Virginia Giuffre, is fake. Really, a deep fake. Well, what do you think of that? Prince Andrew's legal team thinks the infamous photo of Andrew with one of Jeffrey's accusers shown above, as we just showed a moment ago, could be fake according to the Evening Standard. The Duke of York reportedly has absolutely no recollection of meeting Virginia Giuffre, the woman who accused Jeffrey of forcing her to have relations with Andrew in 2001, a source has told the newspaper. The source, described as somebody close to Andrew, told the publication, "Look at his fingers in the photo. The Duke has quite chubby fingers. They don't look right, and nor does the height of the Duke and the girl. I understand his legal team have asked to have proper sight of the original photograph so they can carry out their own investigation as they seriously doubt its veracity. Another source, described only as a senior source, said Andrew has no memory of meeting Guthrie, who was previously known as Virginia Roberts. They said the Duke is adamant and has been consistent since 2011 that he does not recall ever meeting Miss Roberts, let alone the photo being taken. The Standard's report comes a day after Guthrie said she hopes Andrew comes clean. Speaking to reporters outside federal court in Manhattan on Tuesday, Guthrie said, "I will never be silenced until these people are brought to justice." When asked specifically about the royal, she said, "He knows what he's done, and he can attest to that." She added, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it." Guthrie alleged in a 2015 defamation case that Jeffrey made her have relations with Andrew in his New York mansion in London and on his private island in the Virgin Islands back in 2001 when she was only 17 years old. She also alleged that she had been procured for sexual activities by Ghislaine Maxwell, who was a close friend to both Jeffrey and the prince. A spokesperson for Buckingham Palace told Insider, "We have nothing further to add to our previous statements." Prince Andrew released a statement on Saturday in which he said he sympathizes with Jeffrey's victims. "I met Mr. Epstein in 1999. During the time I knew him, I saw him infrequently and probably no more than once or twice a year," read the statement. "I have stayed in a number of residences." He added, "At no stage during the limited time I spent with him did I see, hear, witness, or suspect any behavior of that sort that subsequently led to his arrest and conviction. His suicide left many unanswered questions, and I acknowledge and sympathize with everyone who has been affected and wants some form of closure." Well, Andrew, dare I say, you can bring some level of closure, seeing as how you were very, very close with Jeffrey. You definitely have intimate knowledge of exactly what went on in those homes and what went on with those poor girls. Not going to say women because they were all young girls. Now, it's no mistake that they are trying to say that this photograph is a fake. This is all he has that he can possibly come up with. This photo must be fake. However, you can look at it and you can tell that this looks like an original photograph. This is not a head that's been pasted on. The body, everything looks good. You can see her fingers coming around his back. You can see his fingers around her. Now, I also want to mention that this was taken several years ago, so the prince was quite a few pounds thinner. His fingers would have been thinner. He would not have been as fat then as he is now. So that completely destroys that argument. Now, Prince Andrew is probably going to continue on with the argument that he's been saying that he had nothing to do with it. He has absolutely no reason to come forward or say anything for the sake of these victims or to incriminate himself because Jeffrey is no longer with us. Either he's not in the cell or he's on some island in another country, or perhaps he's in the Middle East. He could be literally anywhere at this point. And that includes 6 feet down in the ground, or perhaps just spread in the form of ashes in the ocean. I don't know. It could be any number of those things. I do see that Michael Jackson is trending now. I wonder why that is. Perhaps it's Michael Jackson's birthday. Well, how appropriate for someone like Prince Andrew to be that close to Michael Jackson as well as Jeffrey Epstein. All right, breaking news, guys. The DOJ Inspector General has released the James Comey report, and the conclusion is that Comey violated Department and FBI policies pertaining to the retention, handling, and dissemination of FBI records and information. That would be mishandling classified information. Look at that. We actually have the Comey report itself. We have that right here, but we're going to go through this article from the Gateway Pundit first. The report is 83 pages long, so we're not going to be going through it all right now today, perhaps this weekend on a live stream. Now, Comey violated Department and FBI policies pertaining to the retention, handling, and dissemination of FBI records and information. That is the report in a nutshell. Now, we've got many different sections. You've got the OIG analysis. The memos were FBI records. Comey violated the handling of those records and the dissemination because he passed them off to a friend who was going to publish them in the New York Times. Comey failed to return memos, and that was after he was removed as FBI director. He improperly disclosed FBI documents and information. He failed to immediately alert the FBI to the unauthorized disclosure of this information. And here is the conclusion conclusion. Congress has provided the FBI with substantial powers and authorities to gather evidence as part of the FBI's criminal and counterintelligence mission. The FBI uses these authorities every day in its many investigations into allegations of drug trafficking, terrorism, fraud, organized crime, public corruption, espionage, I would say child trafficking, throw that in there as well, and a host of other threats to national security and public safety. In the process, the FBI lawfully gains access to a significant amount of sensitive information about individuals, many of whom have not been charged, may never be charged, and may not even be a subject of the investigation. For this reason, the civil liberties of every individual who may fall within the scope of the FBI's investigative authorities depends on the FBI's ability to protect sensitive information from unauthorized disclosure. As Comey himself explained in his March 20th, 2017 testimony before the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, he was unable to provide details about the nature or scope of the FBI's ongoing investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election because the FBI is very careful in how we handle information about our cases and about the people we are investigating. Our ability to share details with the Congress and the American people is limited when those investigations are still open, which I hope makes sense. We need to protect people's privacy. We just cannot do our work well or fairly if we start talking about it while we're doing it. And that was a quote directly from James Comey. However, after his removal as FBI director just 2 months later, Comey provided a copy of Memo 4, which Comey had kept without authorization, to Richmond with instructions to share the contents with a reporter for the New York Times. Memo 4 included information that was related to both the FBI's ongoing investigation of Flynn and, by Comey's own account, information that he believed and alleged constituted evidence of an attempt to obstruct the ongoing Flynn investigation. Later that day, the New York Times published an article about Memo 4 entitled, "Comey Memo Says Trump Asked Him to End Flynn Investigation." The responsibility to protect sensitive law enforcement information falls in large part to the employees of the FBI who have access to it through their daily duties. On occasion, some of these employees may disagree with decisions by prosecutors, judges, or higher-ranking FBI and department officials about the actions to take or not to take in criminal and counterintelligence matters. They may even, in some situations, distrust the legitimacy of those supervisory, prosecutorial, or judicial decisions. But even when these employees believe that their most strongly held personal convictions might be served by an unauthorized disclosure, the FBI depends on them not to disclose sensitive information. Former Director Comey failed to live up to this responsibility. By not safeguarding sensitive information obtained during the course of his FBI employment and by using it to create public pressure for official action, Comey set a dangerous example for the over 35,000 current FBI employees and the many thousands more former FBI employees who similarly have access to or knowledge of public information. Comey said he was compelled to take these actions if I love this country, and I love the Department of Justice, and I love the FBI. However, were current or former FBI employees to follow the former director's example and disclose sensitive information in service of their own strongly held personal convictions, the FBI would be unable to dispatch its law enforcement 60 duties properly, as Comey himself noted in his March 20th, 2017 congressional testimony. Comey expressed a similar concern to President Trump, according to Memo 4, in discussing leaks of FBI information, telling Trump that the FBI's ability to conduct its work is compromised if people run around telling the press what we do, which is exactly what he and Andrew McCabe did. This is no doubt part of the reason why Comey's closest advisors used the words surprised, stunned, shocked, and disappointment to describe their reactions to learning what Comey had done. We have previously faulted Comey for acting unilaterally and inconsistent with department policy. 103. Comey's unauthorized disclosure of sensitive law enforcement information about the Flynn investigation merits similar criticism. In a country built on the rule of law, it is of utmost importance that all FBI employees adhere to department and FBI policies, particularly when confronted by what appear to be extraordinary circumstances or compelling personal convictions. Comey had several other lawful options available to him to advocate for the appointment of a special counsel, which he told us was his goal in making the disclosure. What was not permitted was the unauthorized disclosure of sensitive investigative information obtained during the course of FBI employment in order to achieve a personally desired outcome. The OIG has provided this report to the FBI and the Department of Justice, Office of Professional Responsibility, for action they deem appropriate. Now, I know we've heard in the past that the Department of Justice has declined to prosecute James Comey for the release of this information. I can only hope that that means they've decided to look at other laws that perhaps Comey has broken in the tenure of his employment at the FBI. Let's go ahead and take a look at the OIG report itself, and let's look at those Comey memos. All right, here is an email from James Comey to James Rybicki, it looks like. And talking about minutes of a meeting that he had with President Trump. There are several memos that are included with this. I'm not certain if it contains all of the memos that were referenced during the course of this investigation, but it's definitely worth taking a look because it gives kind of an idea of where Comey's frame of mind was at when he was putting all this together. He clearly was looking to incriminate the president and give a reason for the special counsel to be appointed. And as the OIG report said, just because this is a personally held conviction, you believe that this is something that should take place, doesn't mean that it is something that you should do. We have rules and regulations in place. This is a country where we adhere to the rule of law. However, over the last several years, we have gotten further and further away from that. I'm very, very displeased with the fact that the Department of Justice has declined to prosecute James Comey. But again, there were many other crimes that were committed, including the attempt of a coup of a duly elected president of the United States. So we're going to have to keep a close eye out, guys. There are more reports that are coming, and hopefully that means that there are criminal actions that will take place in the very near future. Now, briefly, before we get into the next segment, I have this tweet thread from Brian Cates that I wanted to go over. He says the Comey report is out. Both McCabe and Comey are on the record with OIG investigations in this report. The memos themselves aren't the issue, or Comey's leaking 4 of them. It's all about what the memos are about, and Horowitz is showing us a lot. We already know the DOJ declined to spend time and resources prosecuting Comey for leaking the 4 memos, including the one that ended up being read to a New York Times reporter. What this report does is it shows you what Comey was doing during a crucial window of time, leading the coup plot. What activity and steps was Comey taking from the time he wrote the first memo to the time he wrote the 7th memo to keep Trump in the dark and assuring him personally that he wasn't under investigation while Comey was still running Crossfire Hurricane and desperately fishing away? 7 memos pull the curtain back and shows you what Comey was doing while running Crossfire Hurricane, desperately fishing for stuff to use against Trump with all this spying while simultaneously trying to keep Trump in the dark by assuring him he wasn't under investigation. Is this a good time to remind people the Spygate plotters also investigated the incoming AG Jeff Sessions? Why, yes, this is a good time to remind people of that, and remember this meme I made. That look Jeff Sessions gives you when he decides he's not just going to fire you, he's going to make an example out of you for all time. After this all goes down, I'll go back to being Stealth Jeff for a month, just to rub all the losers' faces in it. They still think Sessions didn't have to recuse himself and that Rosenstein was part of the Spygate plot. They don't understand how Comey and McCabe were set up. McCabe is rushing on TV to do his part in the launch of a massive public relations campaign to spin Spygate when it goes national after Horowitz's FISA report hits and indictments are unsealed. But Trump already has it all. They can't stop it. Nothing they can do will stop what Horowitz, Barr, Durham, or Huber have been carefully preparing to unleash. A PR campaign is useless when the other side has all the documentary evidence. Here's something people don't understand. The DOJ can pretend to change its mind on any referral from Congress or the IG at any time. People have this idea you get one shot at this. When the referral is first made, you get one decision. Then it's over for all time. But it is not over for all time. The DOJ made the decision on that recommendation once. That doesn't mean they can't go back and decide to prosecute at a later date, especially given all of this evidentiary and documentary evidence that is being brought to the surface and everything that will be brought to the surface in the very near future. Now, as I stated, I'm hoping that this OIG report, although they are not prosecuting Comey for releasing this information, I'm hoping that this is groundwork for something larger. Now, Rudy Giuliani appeared on Laura Ingraham last night, and he had some pretty revealing things to say. We're going to go ahead and listen to this interview, and then we're going to break it down.
We didn't previously know Horowitz was blocking out a separate report just on Comey. Like, he had that big book launch, remember? So maybe he can do another book tour. He can do a report tour on the report coming out tomorrow.
Well, I don't want to oversell it because I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think I know Horowitz, not personally, but I know he was an assistant U.S. attorney and a good one. And I hired Jim Comey, so I think I know Jim Comey.
So you're responsible for
So well, the president always reminds me I'm responsible for Comey, but and exceedingly. The reality is that Comey's conduct was outrageous for a prosecutor. Any decent prosecutor would be bouncing off the walls, starting with the completely fixed Hillary Clinton investigation. That was a sellout, a fix from day one. It was a disgrace. I don't think J. Edgar Hoover ever did that. I think if you take us through the Steele affidavit, a Steele dossier, and the lying about a validated Steele dossier was validated, and putting his name down under oath, I mean, that's straight out perjury.
Well, the FISA court gets this application.
He and I put people in jail for much less than that.
It's an application that does not reveal that the dossier was funded by the president's opponent. That's a material fact in that FISA.
I was there for the beginning of the FISA court, and Joe DeGenova was one of the lawyers on the FISA court, one of the first. And that's a sacred duty, because nobody gets to respond. I did hundreds of affidavits for regular wiretaps for mafia people. Well, somebody challenged those eventually in court. But when I did a FISA affidavit, nobody ever got to see it. It was my responsibility to be honest with the court. That man lied. Straight out lied. There's no way he didn't know that the Steele dossier was a big phony piece of junk. The signature on the FISA affidavit is a crime. What did...
How is it a crime?
It's a crime because it's a false statement under oath. He signed on a penalty of perjury. That means something. Perjury, it's a 5-year statute. How many people did Comey put in jail for a single perjury? I think there was a conspiracy, however, to frame Trump. I think this was a conspiracy to frame Trump, and I think it goes way beyond Comey.
Players were?
Well, I can't name them yet because they're not identified, but this is a counterintelligence conspiracy that started with feeding information to Papadopoulos and having Papadopoulos regurgitated to Australian ambassador. It involved the Ukraine, it involved Italy, it involved UK, it involved Australia, bare minimum. Who could do that but somebody in the CIA? Comey couldn't actually do that. Comey could know about it. Comey could be part of it. Comey could be a player in it. But there's somebody else who was a brainchild of this. Comey played his part as a liar to the court. And there's no confusion about a crime. There's nothing clearer than you are swearing under penalties of perjury. Name, James Comey, paragraph such and such, total lie. Go to jail.
So Giuliani said that Comey was part of a larger conspiracy. This was a counterintelligence operation. By very nature of that, that means it's going through the intelligence community and all the way to the president. I think that this IG report lays out Comey's place in that conspiracy. And the larger scope is that this is much bigger than just James Comey. The co-conspirators have yet to be named. The IG would like for Comey to be prosecuted. The DOJ declined once. That does not mean they are going to decline again. Make no mistake, Giuliani calls out directly the clowns in America and the Five Eyes operation, intelligence agencies that work directly with them on a daily basis to spy on people all over the world. This was a very sophisticated spying and counterintelligence operation. Giuliani states with absolute certainty exactly who is to blame. The specific players have yet to be publicly named, but you and I both know exactly who they are. John Brennan will be back in the news before All right, and next from Paul Sperry in Real Clear Investigations, breaking Trump's bold move to drain intelligence swamp, break declassification logjam of Spygate docs. Let's go ahead and take a look. Well, more than 3 months after President Trump granted his Attorney General unprecedented power to declassify intelligence files, key U.S. intelligence agencies are still withholding documents related to the Trump-Russia affair, say people with direct knowledge of White House discussions on the subject. The source of the logjam is the Office of Director of National Intelligence, which Trump is in the process of shaking up after the resignations last month of its director Dan Coats and principal deputy Sue Gordon. Establishment officials in that agency are still dragging their feet, say sources who spoke on condition that they not be further identified. Sources who have seen the documents generally described their contents to Real Clear Investigations, and they said the material still under wraps includes evidence that President Obama's Clowns in America, FBI, and Justice Department illegally eavesdropped on the Trump campaign. Cases separate from the FBI's disputed FISA court-approved surveillance of Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. That is huge. So beyond the FISAs, the government of the former administration was spying on the Trump campaign. An August 2016 briefing with Clown director John Brennan hand-delivered in a sealed envelope to Obama containing information from what Brennan claimed was a critical informant close to Putin. The informant is believed to have actually been a Russian source recycled from the largely debunked dossier compiled by ex-British agent Christopher Steele for the HRC campaign. An email exchange from December 2016 between Brennan and FBI Director James Comey, in which Brennan is said to have argued for using the dossier in early drafts of the task force's much-hyped January 2017 intelligence assessment. That spread the narrative that Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the alleged Clinton campaign hacking to steal the election for Trump. Copies of all FBI, Clown, and State Department records related to Joseph Mifsud, the mysterious Maltese professor whose statements regarding Papadopoulos allegedly triggered the original Russia collusion probe, transcripts of 53 closed-door interviews of FBI and Justice Department officials and other witnesses conducted by the House Intelligence Committee. The files were sent to the agency last November. The transcripts demonstrate who was lying and expose the bias that existed against Trump before and after his election, said Representative Matt Gaetz of the House Judiciary Committee. They also reportedly contain evidence of a Democratic National Committee attorney maintaining Russia-related contacts with the Clowns in America during the 2016 campaign. The agency did not immediately respond to requests for comments. James Clapper, its head under Barry, has argued that it is concerned about protecting sources and methods from unauthorized disclosure. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence, with its sprawling headquarters in Tysons Corner, Virginia, became the gatekeeper of virtually all classified information in the federal government after its creation in 2005 in response to the September 2001 intelligence failures. It has the authority to declassify and publicly release such records. But Trump transferred that authority to Attorney General William Barr in late May to remove a bottleneck in the release of classified information sought by Republican lawmakers investigating the origins of the Russia collusion investigation launched by the FBI. Before stepping down, Coates resisted the president's declassification order after getting pushback from the intelligence bureaucracy. Sources say it is protective of its turf from Justice Department encroachment and concerned about being implicated in the Attorney General's ongoing investigation of political surveillance that he says was aimed at the Trump campaign and presidential transition. There's been a huge impasse in getting key documents to Congress and declassified during the Russia investigation, said a source close to the situation. Several House members, especially Devin Nunes of the House Intelligence and Mark Meadows of House Oversight, were upset that Coates refused to cooperate in releasing this explosive material to Congress. The source said it was clear Coates was not acting on the president's behalf and had been co-opted by the intelligence bureaucracy. Intelligence officials don't appear to be in legal trouble, yet. Barr has requested but not demanded the documents, hoping for their cooperation, the sources say. But in response to such resistance, Trump is orchestrating a broad shakeup of senior leadership in the intelligence community after the departures of Coates and Gordon, the latter a close ally of Brennan. Earlier this month, Trump withdrew his nomination of Republican Representative John Ratcliffe of Texas, a newly seated member of the House Intelligence Committee, as Coates' replacement after the nominee got a chilly reception from Senate Republicans who questioned his intelligence experience. Ratcliffe has been an outspoken critic of the FBI's Russia collusion investigation. Instead, Coates has been temporarily replaced by former Navy Vice Admiral Joseph McGuire, who moved over from his post as head of the National Counterterrorism Center, giving Trump another intelligence-related position to fill. The president isn't expected to make a decision on a permanent replacement for Coates until the Senate returns from a recess on September 9th. The head of ODNI is a cabinet-level position that has to be confirmed by the upper chamber. A new director might help break the logjam in declassifying documents for Barr's investigation, said Christopher C. Hull, a national security consultant and former senior congressional aide, adding, "It's now toweringly obvious that some portion of U.S. intelligence worked to undermine Trump. The president has as many as 8 candidates under consideration, but his shortlist includes Pete Hoekstra, the current U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands and the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and Fred Fleitz, a 20-year veteran of the Clowns in America, who also worked for Hoekstra on the House Intelligence panel as staff director, and most recently for Trump in the White House as an advisor on national security. Hoekstra declined comment. "I'm going to pass on this. Thanks for asking." But sources say the president recently interviewed him for the top ODNI job. Hoekstra, who worked for Trump's 2016 campaign, appears to be the frontrunner. "He's great," Trump said of the former GOP congressman. Hoekstra has questioned the Barry administration's decision not to brief candidate Trump about alleged Russian election interference during the 2016 campaign, suggesting politics overrode any national security concerns. He has also said he would like to see an investigation of actions taken by the Obama administration, including the increase in surveillance and the unmasking of Americans, including Trump campaign figures in foreign intercepts during the election. Sources say Fleitz met with the president August 5th and has been interviewed for the position by White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney. In fact, he has been under consideration for the powerful post since February. The insider sources said Trump and Fleitz have discussed in more than one meeting foreign policy regarding Iran and North Korea, as well as concerns about determined resistance from deeply entrenched bureaucrats and Barry holdovers in the intelligence community, along with the need to streamline and reform the ODNI. Fleitz would not confirm he is in the running for the position, but he also did not deny it. "I can't comment on those reports," Fleitz told Real Clear Investigations. "I will say it was a great honor to serve President Trump as a member of the NSC," and he added, "I have told the president that if he needs me to return to the administration, I would be happy to do so." Another name mentioned as a candidate for the top intelligence post is General Joseph Dunford, the outgoing chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. The White House did not respond to requests for comment. Fleitz, who currently serves as president of the Center for Security Policy, a conservative Washington think tank, has long questioned the credibility of a January 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian election interference. Fleitz called the report rigged and a politicized analysis. The sources, who are familiar with Trump's thinking on ODNI, says he wants a director who is not part of the entrenched intelligence bureaucracy. They say he's suspicious of the intelligence establishment and believes it spied on him during and after the 2016 election, and is now withholding documents from investigators that could prove foreign intelligence was weaponized against him. Indeed, the dossier that was used as a basis to spy on his campaign proved to be false intelligence, possibly Russian disinformation. The president's skepticism about the intelligence community goes beyond the 2016 election. He frequently reminds West Wing staff of what he calls the fake intelligence regarding Iraqi weapons of mass destruction that justified the 2003 U.S. invasion of Iraq. The stockpiles of WMD alleged in national intelligence reports were never found. Sources say Hoekstra and Fleitz are less inclined to protect the clowns from investigation over the political surveillance aimed at Trump and his campaign in 2016, as Barr recently described it. Both have the support of key Republican lawmakers, including Nunes and Senator Chuck Grassley, who are fed up with the ODNI stonewalling. They know they'd be more cooperative with classified document production concerning the investigations, said a second source familiar with the nomination process. Grassley of the Senate Judiciary Committee was so furious with Coates for refusing to share information he sought for his investigation of the origins of the Russia collusion probe that he put a confirmation hold on an intelligence community nominee. He accused the intelligence czar of attempting to hide documents, including ones related to Justice Department official Bruce Orr, who operated as a conduit between Steele and the FBI, and he complained about it in a letter to Trump earlier this year. Trump also wants a reform-minded director unopposed to his goal of downsizing the ODNI, which has exploded in size with thousands of employees and a budget topping $60 billion. The relatively young agency now ranks among the largest bureaucracies in the 17-agency intelligence community. Trump originally told aides he wanted to altogether eliminate the agency, which he believes is an unnecessary layer of bureaucracy, but he cannot because it was set up by legislation. Fleitz, who has the support of National Security Advisor John Bolt, has proposed restructuring ODNI, including slashing its bloated budget and jettisoning redundant units. In recent opinion articles he's written, Fleitz has indicated he would not only ensure more transparency of records revealing suspected politicization of intelligence during the 2016 presidential race, but protect whistleblowers at the Clowns in America and other agencies who were pressured to cook intelligence to support Barry's administration foreign policies and objectives. Now, we all know the Clowns were run by Brennan from 2013 to 2017, and ODNI was run by Clapper from 2010 to 2017. A House intelligence report found that Clapper leaked dossiers dossier information to CNN just before Trump was inaugurated. He is now a CNN contributor and a constant Trump critic. It was an attitude, some Langley veterans say, that preceded the 2016 election. Former Clown Field Operations Officer Gene Coyle said that Brennan broke with his predecessors who stayed out of elections. Several weeks before the vote, he made it very clear he was pulling for Hillary Clinton in published reports and interviews. His deputy, Mike Morrill, publicly endorsed Clinton in the New York Times, claiming even then that Trump was an unwitting agent of Moscow. The real reason is why we are not hearing more from whistleblowers, Flights wrote in National Review during Clapper's and Brennan's tenures heading the intelligence community. We must find better avenues for intelligence whistleblowers so they can raise their concerns without fear of retaliation. So clearly, Brennan and Clapper created a climate of anti-Trump sentiment in these intelligence agencies. And obviously, these people use their power and their might and the tools of the American intelligence community in order to stifle President Trump, to try to remove him, and to try to do anything they could to install Hillary Clinton as the de facto leader of the United States. Now, these picks sound like great choices for the ODNI, and I think that whether it's Flights or whether it is General Dunford, either one would be really, really good choices because they've been critical of the intelligence communities and they've been critical of the decisions that have been made and the politicization of these intelligence agencies. Right here, we've seen directly exactly how important the ODNI is, but only because it exists as such a massive bureaucracy. The best thing President Trump could do would be to completely abolish the ODNI, but that would, again, have to be done through legislation. Whether it's Hoekstra or it's any of these other two that we have been speaking about in this article, I really do believe that President Trump is going to have an ODNI in short order that is going to do exactly what he needs to be done. It's very unfortunate that this agency is still dragging its feet due to holdovers, the establishment officials that are in the ODNI still, people that are held over from the former administration, which was, by all means, the one that tried to completely remove President Trump from power and stop him from gaining any in the beginning. Unfortunately, the ODNI, as it exists today, is going to continue on. The best thing we can hope for is that Trump is able to get his nominee into the office and that they get through the confirmation process in the shortest order possible. Well, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.